Dungeonland has a really simple story. It's all about the evil dungeon lord, okay? He got really tired of getting his ass whooped by the good guys, so he went to the evil lord conglomerate and got a huge, giant evil loan. And then he used that evil, huge, giant loan to build an evil, huge theme park. And he'll use the theme park as a death trap to kill as many heroes as he possibly can. At its heart, Dungeonland is a hack and slash action dungeon crawling game. From a structural point, it's very reminiscent of Left 4 Dead, for instance, where there are different levels that you move about, and there's not a coherent story that ties it together, but it's a very enjoyable experience as well. Just like with the Left 4 Dead, it has a lot of randomization, and it's all about teamwork. You have to work together as a team to kill the different enemies. And we see here the... let's listen to the Dungeon Lord.
Make sure to get your photographs by the exit.
Has he stopped talking? Okay. So it's all about teamwork and making sure that you customize your character, as you saw in the early stages. You have three basic characters. You have the rogue, you have the warrior, and you have the mage. And these characters have a number of different powers, and you can choose these and you unlock these as you go along, and they allow you to tailor your gameplay experience. And it's all about teamwork. They've also told me, guys, that this build is really hard, so don't slack off. You really have to stick together. You're dead already? Yep. See, I said he was the youngest producer, so there was a reason. So the different characters have different strengths and weaknesses, and you have to really play off each other. The current power you see with the beam going in between, that's a link ability where you have to try to capture the enemies in between you. So it's all about using different powers to draw off enemies or hold them in place while the others deal damage. So there are soft roles, but at the same time you can customize your character and go more support, or go more DPS, or go more tank. And depending on the kind of situation that arises, you'll have to customize your gameplay. So what we're looking at right now is the first of the environments that we're launching with. It's the Arcane Kingdom, if I'm saying that right. And as you can see, it looks very much like one of those trademark places gone really, really bad. So this is very much about the Dungeon Lord luring them in to kill them. And there's actually a Magicka spoof here. Have you seen it? There's up here, upward, northwards, there's a robe dispenser where they buy DLC robes and hats for DLC, and it's overpriced robe DLC or something. They're already making jokes about their publisher, and they haven't even released the game, and it's not a success yet. Pretty cocky, guys. But then again, they're pretty cocky. So, so the game is very much inspired by Gauntlet, by Left 4 Dead in its structure. People have asked, how much is it like Torchlight? How much is it like Diablo? It's not like those games, since they're a little more stat driven. The game has some loot. You pick up stuff, you unlock new stuff. So in that sense, it's similar, but it's much closer to Gauntlet and Left 4 Dead. There are additional environments. This is only the first. I don't think that we're spoiling those yet. Maybe we have, maybe we haven't. I'm not going to talk about them. The different roles also have different skins. You can dress them up in like a silly outfits. The guys have a weird love for sheep, so you'll see a lot of sheep in the game. What happened now was that this was a danger event, and you can see in the bottom that the Mind Flayer has attacked, and that's a mini boss, and he has some kind of buff or area effect, which I'm not exactly sure what it does, since I'm not one of the developers. But he's a big badass, and they really have to work together to kill him. And he has an ability where he draws in the characters. I'm starting to sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger when he's doing the Total Recall commentary. No, he's just saying what's happening on the screen. Oh, yeah, in this scene I have the rat in my hand. So I'll try to talk more about the game features. So only one character left, and I told you this was pretty fucking hard. So the game has a number of different modes. Just like in Left 4 Dead, you play the different maps, the campaign setting in a non-linear structure. Then there's a mode that's called the Infinite Dungeon mode, which is all about, you get into a dynamically generated dungeon. That's a publisher buzzword, dynamically generated, and you try to survive as long as possible, essentially. And the farther you can go, the higher score you get for the leaderboards. We have another mode that we're calling the Dungeon Master mode. We're not talking about that yet, but a small hint, spoiler, is that we have, as you can see, we have, right now 2 of them are dead, but we have 3 players playing, and the natural question is, like, where's the 4th player? Right? That's a pretty good question. Why isn't the fourth player here? And that kind of ties into the Dungeon Master mode, but we're not going to talk too much about that. My Skype chat is spammed by Brazilians screaming at me to say, pick up and throw stuff. Ask him to kill himself. This problem is already solved, but it's ugly. Kill yourself. Kill yourself. Just listen to what they have to say. So this is the future, guys. We're in Sweden. We're playing a game. We're getting directions from a team in Rio, and you guys are all over the world watching this thing.
Ask them how you pick up stuff on the keyboard.
How do you pick up stuff on the keyboard?
This is a message from your host.
It's a slight delay, so we'll see. So they're restarting. I'll try to catch up on a couple of questions. Oh, somebody's saying MXXCon says dynamically generated equals lazy devs. Don't want to spend time on crafting good player experience.
Wow.
So could somebody tell me what's easier to make, dynamically generated stuff or actual content? How easy is it to make good dynamically generated levels? It's huge work. It's not laziness. So it's not that easy.
In many cases, it's easier to just make pre-designed levels.
Pre-designed levels sometimes is easier, but it's all depends. So people are asking other people to Google the Arnold thing. Please ask me more questions. I'm running out of materials here. We have additional environments that are one of the inspiration points that we talked about is that guys have made so much gorgeous concept art that we'll post on Facebook after this, and we've really talked about people have established conceptions about how theme parks should look like, and we're taking that and we're doing a weird twist to it, and that's where all the blood and gore comes in. And somebody's asking about platforms. This game is made in the Unity engine. This is the only game that's not being made in the Bitsquid engine that we're showing. It's made in Unity. It means that we're releasing it for PC and Mac. I know that the developers would love to make this for consoles. As you can see, we're playing with controllers. You can and Emil is playing with the keyboard and mouse. It's one of those games that's really it's a fun couch co-op game, right? And much like Magica was, it was also kind of designed as a console game from the beginning, but it found a home on PC.
Enough with the Magica, right?
Yes, you see how tired they are, and all you ask for is more ropes. See what you did to the man? He's dying. So, back to the thing. The platforms. We'd love to get this on consoles, but the way it works is that the amount of time indie developers, indie publishers have to spend to get stuff on consoles if that time could be spent making more fun stuff on PC. And I mean, we would never have been able to make all that additional content from Magicka if we launched on consoles. Magicka Vietnam would never have seen the light of day because you have to get certified, you have to go through a bunch of different processes. And I'm not saying that consoles are bad, it's just that the kind of games that we make and kind of flexibility we'd like to have, making PC is just so much better for us as a large. It allows us to do more stuff. Somebody's again asking who's making this, and I'll say it's Critical Studio in Brazil. They're the only good developers in Brazil. They're actually the only developers in Brazil, more or less. There are a couple of mobile game companies, but we don't talk about them. So it's very much centered on co-op, and we'll see about the other platforms. But PC and Mac, that's where the action is, and they managed to kill the rabbit. As you can see, there's still a mini boss, Tisha Spank. That sounds sexual. Hope it's on. The melee guy always dies first. Melee looks so weak. I can tell you that it has to do more with the BDU. That's a term we use in the Paradox office. That's a brain dead user. That's something that we're working with. So as you can see, it's a pretty hard game. Somebody found a list of 20 developers, including PC, not in Brazil, I think. So what's the point of the game? The point of the game is moving about in the dungeons, getting from point A to point B, killing the randomly generated stuff, upgrading your character, choosing new items, and getting all the way up to the Dungeon Lord and trying to kill him and having a good time with your friends. It's kind of like saying, what's the point of Left 4 Dead? Is it surviving? No, it's having fun. So let's see. Split screen multiplayer, it's not really, that's not what it's designed for, since we're all playing on the same screen. We haven't talked about that. That's the kind of feature that would be useful for maybe a console release, but we're not doing it. Somebody's asking about the PEGI rating, 16. I honestly don't know. The game is not released. People are asking about what state the game is in currently. This is also pre-alpha. What you're looking at is a vertical slice build, and it's a really good vertical slice build. This actually has too much in it for it being a vertical slice. And vertical slice is the build that you make before you do the alpha. That's when you lock all the features, and then you move on to beta when you do all the polishing and remove all the bugs. Exactly. It's played like Magicka, all the players on the same screen at the same time. The game will be available on Steam. It'll use a bunch of cool Steam features. We just hooked up the devs with access to the Steam backend and the Steam works, so we'll see what they'll put. So we'd be happy to hear your suggestions on achievements. We'll listen. We won't adhere to them, but we'll listen. That's generally how we work, because making games is not a democratic process. And I'm standing on my soapbox now, because this was something we talked about earlier, about like gamers have sued BioWare, or was it EA, for not giving them the proper ending in Mass Effect. And the question is, okay, so who owns the game? Who decides if Diablo 3 looks like a unicorn rainbow game, or if it's a dark and gothy and gloomy game? I don't know. I think that, guys, you have being game developers, who owns the game? You or the fans?
Well, it has to be the game developer, because that's like the case with all kind of creativity. You have to kind of own your work, and you have to be creative with that's my opinion. Yeah. And I mean, of course, not everyone's gonna love it. I mean, that's the nature of things.
But at the same time, if you don't give the gamers what they want, they won't buy your game,
yeah,
right? That's the argument.
Exactly, but that's your punishment then. I mean, that's one thing you'll have to buy. I mean, we designed our game, like the one we've released so far, to kind of we designed it as we wanted it to be, not to fit as broad an audience as possible. We wanted to be like a game that we wanted to play. So, I mean, from our standpoint, that's very much true. We have to own our work, and otherwise it's kind of pointless to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
One thing that's really important, and maybe something that's changing because we see games like Minecraft and all the Kickstarter projects that's occurring there, it's a democratization of the game development process. Essentially, people are pitching in, it's crowdfunded, they're having a voice and say, but like anybody who's read any kind of game design in college or school, one of the most important lessons of game development is that it's not a democratic process. It's not something that you can do in a committee. If you do that, the process will fail because game development so much depends on a few people having a really powerful vision and really going for that, and then finding a team that can augment and realize your vision. And this I'm going totally off topic now. I'm not even talking about the game anymore. But this is kind of the situation with, I realize this because I'm a big advocate of letting developers do what they want with their games, and we should shut up and just trust them because we honestly like the game. But then at the same time, I'm pretty pissed at George Lucas because he's pissing on my favorite thing from my childhood, Star Wars, and he's messing it up. But it's his thing, right? He made it because he was frustrated at the big publishers during the 70s. He was really, our social media lady is giving me the look like, what the hell are you talking about now? So George Lucas stopped making studio films because he wanted to make his thing. He broke loose from the system and he was tired of people telling him what to do. Right? He fought for that bravely, and that's when how Star Wars came about, and that was really good, and it redefined Hollywood. But what happened then was that initially George Lucas he didn't have enough power, so he had to listen. He had to listen to the producer. He had to listen to the other guys, and he wasn't God Almighty. So it was a compromise, but it was still compromises within his vision, and that's how we got Star Wars, and that's why Empire Strikes Back is really good because he didn't direct that, and they changed a lot of the dialogue and stuff. But the new movies, it's all George Lucas. He barely has anybody saying no to him. And again, probably 1,000 people from Skywalker Ranch are just gonna lynch me now and say, "Oh, okay, we had a voice." Blah, blah, blah. But that's the thing, right? And I think that making games is not a democratic process, and I think that you have to trust the developers. You loved Mass Effect. You loved the Diablo series. Just have a bit of faith. The game isn't even released yet, and people are raging about stuff being purple. I don't know. Yes, I'm hoping you guys get to the next phase so I can actually talk about the game again. And I think that a lot of people are going to get really pissed at me, and we can probably just continue this discussion on the forums and on Twitter and Facebook and stuff. And
I think one problem lies within the copyright laws, because if it weren't for those pesky copyright laws that, I mean, the way they look, other people would have the possibility to create Star Wars stuff. But now the only one who gets to create it is the one who has like crappy vision.
But at the same time, it's his baby. Why would he give that to anybody else? He worked so hard to make Star Wars what it is.
Yeah.
Why should he give it away? Somebody asked him, why won't you make more Star Wars movies? Because he said, whatever I do, you guys just complain. Why should I make another movie? And he was like really sad, and I felt bad for him. But I mean, he's but I don't know. Like, I come back to this. Of course, I was born in 1983. I love Star Wars. I grew up with Star Wars. I think we all did, and we loved the LucasArts games. I think I tweeted last night that it's time for LucasArts to remove the arts part from their name, right? Because they haven't been making all the good games, and that's something that we come back to. And why aren't these games that good? And it has partly to do because with the AAA mentality, they know that if we make a Star Wars game, say The Force Unleashed, we have to make a shitload of money, and if we want to make a shitload of money, we have to be on the consoles. So if we want to be on the consoles, we have to make a game that works with a gamepad. That means that it has to be somewhat less complex. You couldn't make a TIE Fighter game that works on consoles, because the original TIE Fighter had 102 controls, and you hit shift and you had 102nd controls, and that's something that's really hard to do on consoles. So they have to dumb it down in a sense and go for the safe ground, and that's why you won't see innovation from Lucas Arts, because they have to go for the consoles. But that's the benefit of doing indie games, if anybody's still listening. This is a really long rant. That the benefit of being independent PC developers is that we can do almost anything we want. Like Magic of Vietnam was a, sorry for mentioning this again, but you had a really good idea. It was a good thing, but I think, again, you can do something else. So I also miss Kyle Katarn. Do you remember how good those games were? No, he was like the Star Wars Will Riker. See, and that's maybe not a good thing for everybody, but it worked for me. And yes, I have a girlfriend, so some people are arguing about electronics in South America. Some people are talking about explosive sheep. Somebody says that George Lucas needs to die before Star Wars is good again, and that Andrew PDX says that, and I hope it's not Andrew from the New York office. That's not nice.